inflation predictions are between 6.7 and 7.2%. Federated farmers have pointed back to the long-term plan process and their concerns around that, and are obviously keen to see that we engage early through the next long-term plan process. And yeah, some concerns from Lloyd McCullum around breaking the 5% commitment that was made through the long-term plan. So really happy to take questions on that, but what Tania and I were proposing to do was to step you through the contents of the annual plan section by section, and yes, stop and pause at the end of each section to answer questions.
So I suppose because submitters will be presenting at the strategy and policy, that'll be a time to ask questions about this, I suppose, rather than now. Is that everybody?
Yes, if you'd like to ask submitters directly, that's for people making feedback rather directly, there will be a chance to have that conversation tomorrow.
I've just got one question around consultation when there's a significant change, just to be clarified, what is a council position when it needs to consult with the other, because it's always every year so people want to be involved. So I don't know whether it's clear saying, oh, if it's a, you know, we've got a 20% or remember that calculation increase, but yeah, sort of want to know the thresholds when we have to consult. So, be clear on that.
Yes, come from, well, firstly, the Local Government Act has a requirement to consult where there is a significant or material difference from what you've proposed in your long-term plan. And then we have our own policy, the significance and engagement policy, which provides further direction around that. It does contain a financial threshold, which is 5% of the total operating expenditure. Because we had projected a 5% increase in our long-term plan for year 3, and had taken it up to 6.9%, that doesn't trigger that financial threshold. I'm still within those bounds, but there are other matters that can be taken into consideration as well. So very happy to get you a copy of the significance and engagement policy through that scenario at some stage.
Thanks, Rachel. Before, there was one question I've already asked Dom about this, so but just for clarification, on page 12, the expected return from the marine fee is said to be 2.5 million. On page 13, it's sort of worded the same, that it's expected to be 2.8 million. So I wondered why there was a difference there. And Don did explain it to me, so perhaps you could just go over that again, Don.
Yeah, so the key difference is in the wording, and so the reference on page 12, the 2.5 million, it's 2.5 million higher than what was budgeted. And so what was budgeted was about 0.25 million, and when you add those two together, so we get the 2.5, which is the 2.8, which is the total marine fee income.
Okay, thank you. Probably I didn't read it carefully enough. All right. Paul, have you got anything before we go on?
Yeah, so I've just written a question there regarding the statement from Lloyd around the lack of happiness around what we're doing and not enough face-to-face. Does this highlight the communication issues that Councillor Gibson's raised before?
You understand that question, Tania or Rachel?
I'm not sure, Chair, if it's a question for us or for the committee.
Right.
I think it's more a question to the committee and all councillors. You know, that Councillor Gibson has raised issues with our ability to communicate with our ratepayers. And now we see one of the statements that Lloyd's made is a lack of happiness. There's a feeling of a lack of happiness around what we're doing and not enough face-to-face. Maybe we should take this comment and use it from what Alistair's been saying.
Okay, any comments from Jeremy?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I hear you, Paul, but coming from experience of 25 years of submitting to councils and things, that it was a way of feeling like you can, from the public point of view, is that you have a say in what's going on. It feels like, well, it's one opportunity you can actually talk to the councillors or talk to the council. And I think it's hugely important. I've been a great fan of consulting. I know there's a cost to it, but it's actually, I personally like to hear people, because it gives them the opportunity to really tell them how they feel about what's going on, and sometimes they don't get that opportunity. So I certainly agree with whether we don't have to. It's actually how we want to deal with the community, and I think even more so as we're going in, there's a lack of I think within the community there is a bit of lack of being involved or want to be involved. You've sort of been isolated a wee bit. There's a lot of that going around in society too, I believe now. So I'm always keen. I'm really going to enjoy seeing a few people here. It's admire to have a yarn. So I think it's hugely important, but there is policies that we don't have to do it. But I agree with that policy.
Right, okay, Lyndall.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, point noted, Paul. And I'm going to save my comments for tomorrow, actually, because I think that particular part of this discussion comes up in the strategy and policy meeting tomorrow. Yeah, I'll leave it.
Thank you, Lyndall. I do think it's an important issue, and one of our performance goals, and which is set out later on in this agenda, is that we have, that the community trusts us and that they have faith in what we do. And certainly some of the submissions would suggest that not everybody does. I know that it's impossible to get everybody to do that, but I think that's a really important goal to have, and obviously everybody would agree with that. So making sure that we are on top of that's really, really, really important. Okay, right. Are you happy to carry on now with dealing with the annual plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So at our meeting in May, we were instructed to take the rate increase agreed and prepare the financial accounts, the budgets accordingly. So that is what we've done. We have a document in front of us. That is our annual plan for the year. The annual plan under the current modern version of the legislation requires us only to produce for you the budgets, the rates impact funding statement, and any differences of service where we might have changed from the LGT. It refers us back to the original planning document. So that is what we're proposing here. You don't see a lot of detail. The detail of our levels of service are in our LTP documents and our quarterly reporting documents. This is largely an overview and a budget and a setting of rates, proposed rates. So I'll start with the commentary that is going to go out to the public from the Chairman and Chief Executive, pages 4 and 5. Often one where there is some discussion. Was there anything in these pages that you'd like to point out to us?
Sorry, I'm not quite where page 4 and 5 of that.
Annual plan, sorry. Okay. Nothing. Yes.
Yeah, just paragraph 5. The recommendations from the regional forum will form part of this work. Being part of our community support activities. I just wonder if it's that's strong enough wording for the. Oh, yeah, taking into consideration the engine forums with. Might we get too far to say all on your basis, that's good, but interested in what other people about that. I know it's not the only thing that we're considering, so I understand that.
Each year, maybe something like will form a key foundation for this work.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that, but I'm not sure whether anybody else is.
Fine with that, Jeremy?
Yeah, not thinking about all the other things, sorry, but around the things that have come our way in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, no, I'm pretty relaxed about that.
So just to confirm, the wording would be the recommendations from the regional forum will form a key foundation for this work. Over the community support activities.
Yeah.
Words to similar effect.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Page 7, highlighting the contents of this annual plan. Please tell me if you've spotted anything.
Probably a key comment on this page is the link to the long-term plan and the fact the levels of service, groups of activities are all set out within that document.
Pages 8 and 9. Really explain to the community what is different to the long-term plan. And we are highlighting here in the table the increased income as we've discussed from marine fees, increased expenditure. Made a point of highlighting the capital grants from, or potential capital grants from Whanau or more funding. Should that opportunity arise, increased employee expenses and other expenses, and our capital and investment position and net debt forecast, and how it varies and why it varies to the LTP. Is there anything in there that you would like us to explain or draw your attention to?
Comments, Paul, have you got any comments? No?
Page 11 is our financial disclosures. So we disclose in the plan, the annual report and LTP, what our debt position is, what our affordability position is. You can see there that we'll, while we have gone over our forecast 5% rates increase, in every other situation we are better than our budget. As
Okay.
page 13 is the graphical, a simple graphical representation of our income funding sources, actually, which includes capital grants, investment income, rental income. For the first time in some years, the prospective funding doesn't include the use of reserves or the balanced budget. So, yeah, it's an achievement. And then our prospective expenditure by our current groups of activities.
Right, that looks pretty clear.
Page
Easy to understand.
Page 14. Many financial statements. We'll do the key ones. Page 14 is our comprehensive revenue and expenditure account, previously known as profit and loss. detailing there our forecast rates and other income expenditure. The inclusion of the $10.6 million grant from Kānoa, potentially from Kānoa, is resulting in a forecast operating surplus of 10.3 million. I'm just pointing out that it is inclusive of that 10.6. Balance sheet.
Yep.
Forecasting end of year cash position of 3 million. Trade receivables 12.6 million. We're forecasting no increase in the managed funds. Planned increase from the LTP. Property and plant equipment will increase as a result of our potential forecast investment in capital infrastructure for climate resilience. And our net asset position is forecast to be 104 million. Any questions on those statements?
Whereabouts is the Southport dividend? Is that there somewhere?
The dividend is on page 14. Under interest and dividend. And we have a 5.5 combined income forecast for Southport dividend and interest earned on our other investments. So the dividend is 4.7.
Yeah.
We're forecasting 800,000. The increase between the LTP and our annual plan is reflecting the fact that the market is producing more interest, higher interest rates. And negative effect when you're paying interest and a positive effect when you're investing. So that the investments of the council are the managed funds shown in the balance sheet. That's our reserves that we've invested, our long-term disaster reserves and resilience reserves.
Thanks, Chairman. Just a quick look at the employee entitlements on page 15. Quite a difference between the annual plan and the LTP. Can you just help me out with that?
The 1.4, sorry, or the 57.
The 57, the 34.
Yeah, so that's 57,000. That's the longer. We have to split the employee entitlements up into two parts, and as I said, it's the longer term part. And I think that's long service leave. It's a potential of service leave entitlements that accumulate.
Right.
Thanks.
Jeremy?
Just in the lease area balances, so we're just on the long term, we're $1 million. Interested, we're $1 million up from the long term plan, is that correct? Looking ahead. Well, it's gone from 6.4 million to 7.4 million.
Two things.
Something else.
We had intended to, in the long-term plan, we were taking 400,000 a year out, starting a year ago, to fund the climate resilience debt. But we're not forecasting to do this in this annual plan. There have been surpluses also greater than expected by several hundred thousand, but the difference is the forecast funding.
Thanks, Paul. Have you got anything? Can you hear all right? You've got your sound turned off.
I can hear fine, thanks, Maris, and no questions. I'm going down it with everyone and noting Jeremy and all's questions, so thank you.
Okay, thanks. There was something there, investment in related party on under non-current assets. What's that?
That's our shareholding in RSHL.
Okay.
and small investment in civic financial services. We are reducing our investment in RSHL annually to reflect the depreciation and value of that asset. So this is Iris, the original version.
Yeah.
It's on an end of life cycle. In fact, in the statement of intent, it shows that valuation of that asset, that part of RSHL is decreasing. So over the last 2 years, we've each year written off another 90,000, 90,000 a year, reflecting the decreasing value of our investment in RSHL.
Okay. We've got the report coming up, haven't we? All right, it's good on page 15.
Prospective cash flows, page 16. As you could say, dominated by the climate resilience projects here. Again, the forecast expenditure of $10 million in climate resilience projects, should they be able to go ahead in the accompanying grant and the resulting drawdown of $15 million in debt, with a final cash on hand of $3 million as referred to in the balance sheet.
Okay, any questions on that? Fine, all right. $17, any notes, anything?
So 17 is a summary of our rating position. There's 5 or 6, should know, 5 types of rates that we have there. And again, laying out where they were in the LTP. The percentage increase is above the LTP, so, and it's a small rounding. So we had 5%, we've gone to 6.9. And you can see the individual effect within those rates there.
Any questions on those? Everybody all right? Okay, thanks, Tanya. And page 16, 18.
18. This lists chair on the reserves that we hold, as we discussed before. There are that are invested, special reserves, a large amount of disaster reserves, catchment reserves, and some property reserves where we are reserving funds for future replacement of assets. You'll see the marine fee reserve forecast to open the financial year at 1.4 million. We have noted in the past that the reserve at the beginning of this year was 357. We are intending, following in the annual report this year, to transfer 1 million into that reserve to restart rebuilding that reserve. So we intended to open the coming year at 1.4 million. We will be transferring in a net amount of 2 million. So that's 2.8 less the cost of the harbour activity, marine activities, and transferring out to other parts of the organisation 2.2 million, leaving a balance of 1.2 forecast.
Jeremy?
Just with the South Port special dividend reserve, there's obviously nothing there. In regards to that, will we ever have anything there? I was just wondering, why do we just have to keep that there?
That's a good point. Thank you.
Would love that special dividend reserve. I think
It's a good suggestion. That's
it's pretty long.
I see there's another one we can delete.
Yeah, it's just a couple where there are then
Photography.
there's no need for them probably.
No, noted. Thank you. Page 19 onwards.
Oh, sorry, Tanya, just before we go on, just a question about the disaster damage reserve. What's the relationship with that to the money that Meridian provides for works and presumably repair of stop banks and things in the wire.
That fund is largely, be careful, I suppose I'm saying it's built over time from that reserve, from that funding.
Right,
It's used in the catchment, the Meridian funding, but it has been reserved into that particular reserve. So there's no other description. There's actually several reserves accumulated into that one.
okay, so that money is available in case there's some disaster, presumably.
Yes. And this year you're seeing movements, the normal operational movements in and out. Several years ago after the, I think December 20 flood. And then there was the climate resilience project too. We put $1 million of rock work back into the YL. There was a deduction from the this disaster reserve to fund a share of that.
Right, okay. All right, thanks, sorry, carry on then.
Statement of accounting policies explains the basis on which these financial statements are prepared. The only change to this is note page 27. Critical judgments. In the past, when you log the COVID, we had to make some assumptions on the effect of the COVID pandemic, and we had noted that substantial reductions in income as a result. That has changed. We are now forecasting back to more normal COVID, post-COVID times for the income. We also suffered quite substantial volatility in the investment market during that period as well. We're noting here our assumption that the portfolio will earn 3%, what we call realisable income, which is interest and dividends. We're forecasting no unrealised gains in value. So that is a conservative approach, but it has been one that has worked for us, especially over the last 3 years. So they are the key assumptions that are different in the accounting policies than we proposed in the LTP.
Okay. Yeah, any comments? No? All right.
Page 29 is a whole of council funding impact statement. Pages 29 and 30. It outlines the Meridian Council and its income, like sources of funding, from the rates, fees and charges, interest as it says here, and then any other fuel tax, which doesn't apply to us, but this is a statutory template we have to use. Fuel tax, fines, infringement fees, and other receipts. Nothing substantial is changed here other than the income. So you can see has gone into our fees and charges. And then our payment to suppliers and other funding, other operating costs. Then our capital investment again, the debt movement, and then that's reflected in our reserves and our balance sheet balances. The net result should always be zero. So what we're saying here is that this is a total list of income and a total application. It's a combination, it's actually a valuable document. It is a combination of the profit and loss, balance sheet movements and cash flow. It's a document unique to councils, created by the Department of Internal Affairs for us.
Jeremy?
Just in regards to finance costs, so we've got a none there. We were intending to have 140 grand, but just to explain that.
We've looked, well, a couple of things. One is we decided that we could actually capitalise the interest into the asset. Secondly, when I won't say it's not going to be 150,000. Our interest costs are going to be reasonably low because of our funding position, our ability to the delay in some of those projects as well. The net cost to council at this point in interest is 0. So while it might be 150,000, it won't be a lot more if we will capitalise that into the projects.
Got some other lines with nothing in them as well. They,
Unfortunately, in this document, this is a prescribed document, we have to leave them there.
Oh,
As much as I'd like to delete them, and I'm sure the general manager would love to delete them. We would love to delete.
right, okay.
Perhaps we can ask the auditor this afternoon. Now, page 31 is also a funding impact statement. But this is a very prescribed document. It's called the Rates Funding Impact Statement. And it specifically sets out the amount of rates that the council wishes to set and collect for the year. We have a note there about the rates equalisation, which is, we've described before in the past, the challenge with each of the councils revaluing at different times. And then we go on to see out the general rate, which is made up of a capital value rate and a uniform annual general charge. Over the page, we have the targeted rates, targeted non-catchment rates, and then on page 33, we commence our 5 pages of catchment rates, where each of the levies is laid out describing the cost either per hectare or per $100,000, depending on where a ratepayer the property is situated. This year, Chair, I'd like to recommend that we set the rates with the adoption of the annual plan on the 29th of June. Historically, we have set the rates in September. We are unique in that every other council sets the rates with the annual plan. There's been an historical reason for us setting rates in September. It's to do with the fact we're regional councils and reliant on other councils for our rates database information. We've made such good progress with our rates work. I won't call it transformation work, but with our rates database work, that we're in a position now to set the rates at the 29th of June with other councils. Yeah. So we've included the rates here for your consideration. They are 100% adding up to be a 6.9% rate increase. At the back, there's a calculator that outlines a ratepayer, if they choose, can put in their own information and forecast their rate. I believe we have an online calculator as well. So the recommendations, perhaps Rachel could read them, if there are no questions.
So in terms of next steps, we've already talked about the strategy and policy committee meeting tomorrow, and you will hear from Federated Farmers and Legis McCullum at that hearing. I just to round back to the comments about consultation and communication earlier, I believe the feedback submitters have provided us with, give us some really helpful insights for the long-term planning process that we need to take on board. Those insights are reinforced by the review into local government's final report yesterday and the importance of local voice. And the report also contains a number of tools in the participatory and deliberative democracy space that we may wish to look at through the long-term plan process. The second step is the council meeting next Thursday, which is an extraordinary meeting for council to adopt the annual plan. And you can see the recommendations there. It's recommended that this committee, the Finance and Performance Committee, resolve to receive the draft annual plan. to confirm in accordance with section 100 of the Local Government Act that the annual plan has been prepared based on reasonable judgment and assumptions, and that it considers the projected financial results to be financially prudent given its financial position. And thirdly, that this committee recommends that council adopt the annual plan for the 2023-24 financial year.
Okay, did you want that number 3 to be worded slightly differently so that we recommend to council that it adopt rather than the way that it's worded?
So you read it in conjunction with the first sentence. So it is recommended that the Finance and Performance Committee resolve to recommend that council adopt the annual plan for the 2023-24 annual year, financial year rather. In terms of the changing, Tani, we're thinking was.
Okay.
I was just drawing attention to the councillors that we're not adopting it.
It's the committee that recommends the council adopt.
Right, so shall we adopt all 3 together with that change?
Yep.
Okay.
Question.
Oh, yes, Chair.
Sorry. Let's just, I'm just going to backtrack a wee bit, just looking at the catchment rates and things I'd just like to duly note. When you look at why we need a rating review, we've got 20 rates there that are under $1,000. Out of all that we clicked, didn't you? Sorry, I'm just making a point that this is a good example if people want to see what we're dealing with, and certainly looking ahead that we need to sort this stuff out, be efficient. I think so. That's all I was just wanting to make a point. Sorry.
So could you explain that a little bit more so I understand?
Oh, I'm just saying that there's some rate classifications here. There's 20 that only click $1,000.
Right, that's
They've got their own, yeah, no, they're all different bits and pieces. Like there's one here, one rating classification clicks $72. And you go, how efficient is that to have that? And Tanya knows what I'm talking about. So it's just saying that we can't live like that. And that's why we need this rating reviews and just to tidy this up to make it a lot easier for accounting and be practical about things.
And more equitable.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a feeling it was just, this is the time you can see them all.
Yep. Any other questions, Lyndall?
No, I was just going to move or second, whichever,
Yeah.
and make the point that rating review is becoming more and more obvious as we look at all this.
Paul, do you have anything?
You know, the rating review is well needed, so you can see some large discrepancies in the Te Anau Basin.
Okay, thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. You get that? Mover, Jeremy, seconder, Lyndall. And that slight change to recommendation 3 that Rachel read out. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Tanya and Rachel, for all of that. Right, item 2 is the Regional Software Holdings draft statement of intent. Don, you go to the
Yep, thank you, Chair. I'll take the item as read. One thing I will point out is due to an administrative error, we missed the deadline for responding back to RSHL in terms of giving them feedback on the statement of intent. However, we've subsequently reviewed that and did not have any feedback that would materially change what would come through, hence the reason we're happy to put it through to the committee for noting today.
right.
Thank you.
Chair, I just want to clarify that matter. I just like to clarify, we did not miss the deadline for RSHL. RSHL failed to communicate with us the statement of intent before the deadline passed, before they realised the error and provided us with statement.
Right, and there was something to do with the wrong email address or something, was it?
I believe so.
Right, thank
Or
you.
possibly just didn't see the choice.
I'll note that. Are there any questions from anyone? No.
Not specific question, but the general feeling from our new director on that group, that of improvements and changes underway in the sector.
Thank you. Jeremy?
We'll see.
Okay, Paul, did you have anything? No, okay, thanks. I said we did, I think we referred to this earlier on page 42, which is their statement of finance and performance. I note that for future years, 24, 25 and 25, 26, there's a deficit, which is sort of growing a bit. Is that, what's the story there? Is that something to be concerned about? Or is that part of the restructuring?
The latter. And the work that's underway now around virus next generation. At the stage, we really comfortable with the sitting.
Yeah.
Because I look reading the state contains about the wallpapers and not to see it at least in that way. I just like to say I'm quite comfortable with where that's sitting at the moment. RSHL is going through change, and there will be Iris Next Gen as a project that will bring part of that change, but also the board will on Turu Kahika, the regional centre, and RSHL as a shared services entity and its funder. I think will grow, and so what the interesting board on what that transformational work program will look like for RSHL, because that aspect of its work is going to increase also. So it is an organisation in change,
Right.
and it's an organisation bringing an IT change project to the table. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that. But the board is very focused on it.
Right, is that a qualified, comfortable, or?
No,
Right, thanks. You see that at the moment.
yeah, but we still haven't got the strategy finalised for the future, and Turu Kahika, which is the regional council support secretariat, it's going through change also. It's starting to formalise its relationship with the various people that have got providing support services. So it's looking to formalise staff. RSHL would be the employer for those staff. Because it's the entity, the CCO, that actually operates on behalf of the sector. So there's a change process there, and all the strategic work needs to go through that. We are, overseeing an organisation in change, and an organisation bringing a large IT project to the table.
Okay. All right, thank you.
None of that's a surprise, it's not the same way as well.
Lyndall?
Just a quick question, Chairman. I'm just wondering if we need to feed back to whoever is responsible for the lack of email, our displeasure, although I suspect that somebody has already filled it.
I did actually also manage to get them to correctly, they also had incorrectly used our name in the statement of intent, which is now being rectified.
So you're quite comfortable that we don't need to say anything further to them about that?
That is well doing. So I'm very happy to take the council's
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to organise that, Lyndall?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay, so all we need to do.
I'm happy to move those recommendations. Thank you.
That's two recommendations, draft statement and a cover letter. Jeremy, second that. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, and thanks for those comments, Wilma. Item 3, the Civic Financial Services Limited Statement of Intent. Hold on.
Yep, so another statement of intent we received as a very minor shareholder in Civic Financial Services at 0.09%. Key takeout from this is a 2 basis point reduction in their administration fees from 0.37 to 0.35%. This will obviously have a positive impact on the organisation, albeit a nominal one, given we're a reasonably low membership of the superannuation scheme through Civic Financial Services.
Okay. Any questions? No. All right, so the recommendation is that we note the statement of intent. All right, on the mover, please, Jeremy, second by Lyndall, all those in favour, please say aye. That's carried. Right. Ongoing matter there, just, excuse me. Breaking voice this morning. Those questions have been referred on, so that's fine. So we note, recommend that we note that ongoing matter. Jeremy, Lyndall, those in favour, please say aye, carried. Public excluded. Yeah, thanks.
So the reason to move into public excluded business is to deal with confirmation of minutes, 24 May 2023. Item 5, great self-statement of intent 2023 to 2026. Reasons for passing into resolution to prevent the disclosure or use of official information for improper gain or advantage, and to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations.
Right.
Second.
Move second, all right, all those in favour, please say aye, that's carried. Thank you, so